Good evening, or day, or wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. It is another episode of the MMA Brothers. My name, of course, Brad Jones.
My name's Kobe McKinley.
Man behind the camera, Parker Hennis. And we are here again. This week we are going to begin recapping. The epic reign of Conor McGregor continues. So we just finished up, I'm not sure what number Fight Night, actually I do, it was 49. Fight Night 49, McGregor versus Siver. The main event we saw, of course, what everyone expected to happen, Mr. Conor McGregor dismantling a very not ready Dennis Siver. Not ready. He was ready.
He was ready. He was as ready as Dennis Siver's going to be, but I don't think he was quite what they say about most featherweights when they go up against Conor is they have not quite been hit by a featherweight that hits like Conor McGregor. And that seriously is how it looked with Dennis Siver. Dennis Siver's no spring chicken.
No.
He's a veteran of the sport. He'd been in this kind of high pressure, the UFC wants you to lose kind of thing before, and he came out on top. And definitely, no matter how much people try and say it was a gimme fight for Conor, that it didn't really test him, this was a test. This was definitely a test, and he passed. Flying colors.
Siver did way better than I thought he was going to do.
Made it a whole round.
Even in getting beat up most of the time, I was like, he's doing pretty well. I mean, he definitely survived that 2-minute prediction, so yeah, I mean, he was doing pretty good. And I mean, in all honesty, when you look at the way Conor cuts weight, the man is probably, honestly, like a welterweight. He's huge. When he was cutting weight, he did an interview with Ariel directly after the weigh-ins. He looked dead. He looked like a man that could fall over and die at any second. He cuts an incredible amount of weight. He looked
like he'd been held prisoner and held in the hot box for the whole time he'd been in prison.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he looked just like a homeless uncle. I mean,
a man who wasn't eating his 3 squares, I'll tell you that much, or drinking water. And he overcame that to finish Siver in the second round. He did get taken down in this fight, and he sprung up. Yep. Sprung right back up to his feet. I think one thing going forward with Conor is the fact that people really downplay his ground game. They downplay his ground game because we haven't seen it, because we haven't had to see it. The dude's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're not a slouch on the ground if you're a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And just because that's not where he chooses fights to take place doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to do that.
Here's the thing, though. Winning this sets him up in his title fight with Aldo, where I don't think it's going to matter, because there's no way Aldo wants to take this man to the ground. Aldo wants to stand in front of him and strike. And in all honesty, I love Conor to death, but I think he gets outstruck by Aldo.
I think that I mean we've seen Aldo get. He has taken dudes down before. He took down Mark Hominick. He took down the dude in his last fight. Mendez.
I just don't see him doing it here. I feel like he's gonna just want to stand and strike.
I think that Aldo, being Aldo, wants to beat Conor, just like any great champion is like, this guy's just like any and Weidman. He didn't really wrestle Machida.
Ooh.
Pettis grappled with Melendez.
Submitted
Melendez. This is the thing what great champions do, and that's what leads me and you to think that Aldo is gonna want to really see what Conor can do on the feet. And when I think about what Conor can do and when I think about what Aldo can do, even though I give Aldo the slight edge, if this fight stays on the feet, I don't know, because
it'll be great regardless. I mean, it will be great.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Aldo got dropped by Chad Mendes, a wrestler, in the words of Conor McGregor, a wrestler that learned how to strike, not a Conor McGregor who wants to take your head off.
Right.
And I don't think that Aldo has a little bit of a looser style and kind of takes some shots in his fights. I don't think he wants to do that against McGregor.
Straight left.
Yeah.
It's like a piston.
Ooh, man, it's so
Connor's
good.
straight left is so powerful.
All his strikes, they come from weird angles. His kicks.
His kicks are crazy. All the spinning kicks from all kinds of different angles.
Reading today, listening to a podcast, I can't remember which one it was, talking about the kicks of Conor McGregor and the way he uses them to bring guys in to his punches.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I don't want to get kicked by this dude from out here.
Right.
Let's jam him up. Let's jam him up. And then Conor's like, oh, well,
you got jammed.
You got jammed. Yeah, exactly. And solid performance for Conor. And
all those next.
Dang it, Siver.
In May in Vegas.
In Vegas. Unfortunately, Dana White talked about in the post-fight presser that they would lose money. Not lose money, but they wouldn't make as much money as they could in Vegas, in Ireland, which everything that the UFC has been doing this year is kind of leading us to believe that they need to make as much money as they can.
This is a money year, which has its pros and cons. Pros, this is the year that we're getting like the money fights. This year in the UFC, we are seeing the big fights that are the money fights.
Money, money, money.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean,
we'll get to the cons a little bit later. That's going to be in our Bellator discussion. But
what else can you say about McGregor? He's going to fight Aldo. The fight's going to be huge.
Definitely the biggest featherweight title fight ever.
Did you ever figure out what was up with that girl in the audience between Aldo and his wife? There was a girl sitting down. Not a girl. It was a woman. It looked like a woman. And Conor, he wins. Jumps out of the cage. His girlfriend thinks he's going to see him. What I also noticed that his father was standing right in front of Aldo as well. So his father's like, son. and then Conor just looks right past them and starts screaming his head off at a maniacally laughing Jose Aldo, which that reaction from Jose Aldo is horrifying.
Terrifying. Every scene of him at that card or on the embeddeds was him just fucking a stone face. And did you see the gif of he was in the crowd and it was like when they're doing the show and they put the camera on him and he just kept looking forward to like the very end and he just glanced over and just stared at the camera like super fucking hardcore.
No, my favorite was terrifying. In the embedded when the Brazilian interviewer was talking to talking to Aldo, and Aldo just responds just it was a supervillain laugh.
Yeah, it was a maniacal, evil laugh.
Like this Irishman does not know what the top of the mountain looks like.
Oh, man.
And it's very possibly Jose Aldo. There's a lot of action on message boards, on Twitter, I was just looking at YouTube today. A lot of people saying Conor's the best. He's going to beat Aldo. Other people saying, you guys are a bunch of trolls. Conor can't do nothing. All you're saying is how he's going to be equal to Aldo, not anyway, how he's going to win. The only time and the only person that needs to explain any of that is Conor McGregor on Fight Night.
Yep.
We can discuss stuff all day, but we're only going to figure it out when they actually strap on the levers. They strap onto some levers. And they drag race for the UFC Featherweight Championship of the World. Conor's finding a way to tie in drag racing into MMA. They drag race to a point. Whoever wins that gets the first punch, and then they fight.
It's just like a different sort of sport.
It's not MMA anymore.
Yeah. Like a drag racing hybrid.
It's a drag racing fighting hybrid that I just invented.
And with that leads us into our co-main event.
Yeah.
where we saw Cerrone taking a questionable unanimous decision 2-1 over Ben Henderson. So I mean, it wasn't a sweep, so that made it a little bit better. But I still think generally everyone is in agreement that Ben won that 2-1.
Man, it's tough. It's tough.
It was tough. It was close.
It's tough because we've run into the old commentating being a little bit Rogan and Goldie, in my opinion, are the most tried and true commentators that the UFC has. Although, with that being said, I still think that sometimes the commentating style of those two lends itself to getting people a little skewed.
Yeah.
In
For
what the fight is actually showing. There was only one event recently, I can't remember, where Joe Rogan kept reminding us, kept saying, listen, I am not a judge. I'm not a judge. That was nowhere to be found in this event at all. When he called two fights, the
Carthel Pendred.
Yeah, Pendred and Spencer. He called that a robbery. And then I also believe he had similar sentiments for the Benson Henderson Cerrone fight, which, if you watch the fight, it's so close. It depends on what a judge is going to judge it on. Is he going to judge it on forward movement and looking for a fight, or is he going to judge it on who the technically better fighter is? And you can't necessarily bet that an MMA judge is going to look at your side kicks to the thigh and think, that guy really is, he was really winning this fight with his technical prowess, which Benson Henderson used. And has.
Yeah. Cerrone couldn't throw any of those kicks. He was too tentative because he didn't want to get taken down.
Yeah.
Those kicks are one of his biggest assets.
Yeah, in terms of
able to utilize
technical execution, on a week and a half notice, 2 weeks, Benson Henderson did a phenomenal job picking apart Cerrone.
Yeah.
And then Cerrone did what Cerrone does, and he kept walking forward and kept trying to engage. And it's a fight that's like, man, it wasn't even a fight that really, over the course of 15 minutes, I really didn't get invested in.
Not really, yeah.
Because one thing about friends fighting friends, a reason I'm against it is not because Dana White is a miser and he's making friends fight and I don't want to see friends be mad at each other, but because when friends do break down and they're like, yeah, we'll fight each other, we don't really get a fight.
That killer thing isn't there. Even Cerrone said afterwards, he was like, I felt bad, and they're fighting him. Dude's like really close friends with him. You don't want to just like rip a guy's arm off or knock him straight dead, when it's your best friend. But, at the end of the day, as many people as Ben Henderson robbed in decisions, I feel like it's finally time he got his own. So.
It's really... and I hate to say this because I really do like, aside from the Bible bashing, I really do like Benson Henderson as an athlete and and the way he presents himself as an athlete. And so I kind of hate to say that, but I kind of have to say that as well. What goes around comes around, and when you retain a title, almost half of the times you defended it on like a really iffy decision. You can afford to lose a 3-round decision.
Yeah. Right? And, I mean, it's not like he's doing anything at lightweight. Cerrone is on his way up still, and Ben was just, not really on his way down, but just sort of, he's just there. He can't really do anything. He's already lost to Pettis twice, unless all these other better contenders all get hurt or busy. It's not going to be likely Ben's going to get a third fight anytime soon. Then he said he gave up on his idea of going up to welterweight before the fight, and now after the fight he's saying, well, I'm back open to it, maybe jump between the two.
Just do it.
Whatever. Go up to welterweight, man.
Great.
And we're back. Moving right along to our next topic. This whole Jon Jones drama. Now, we haven't talked about it on the show yet, and now it's pretty much over. I mean, we have the whole story, so we're going to talk about it in full.
Whole thing.
From the beginning, y'all already know. Jon, blah, test, fails at cocaine. Way before the fight, December 3rd, right?
Yeah, way before the fight. The UFC wasn't notified till the 23rd.
And when they were, chose not to do anything about it because there was money to be made.
And they technically didn't have to do anything about it. No,
and technically, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And Jon is the one that was wronged here. Now, most recently, and this morning, I believe for us, after he's been out for this long, he did a one-on-one interview for Fox Sports 1. We watched it today, where he discussed the issue and his stay in rehab, which lasted a total of one night. Because, as I and many suspected the entire time, he's not an addict, he doesn't have a problem. He revealed that, he did cocaine a lot in college. But since then, he's really done it sporadically and just did it that once at a party. He was like, I know it was a bad deal. I knew I was going to... He got tested right afterwards. He was like, I knew I was going to test hot for it. The interesting thing out of that, though, was because everyone's been making... Well, not everyone. The analysts and people like Ariel and people like that have been bringing up the fact that Jon was the one that was wronged here. The athletic commission messed up. They shouldn't have tested him for that, and even if they did, they shouldn't have released those results to the public. The only reason they did was because a reporter asked for those to be released. And in the interview, she was like, so, are you planning on taking any sort of action against, the athletic commission of the UFC? And he was like, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but, talking to my lawyers. So they might have he might come back a bit.
He has a case.
With the Kung Lee drama and everything.
He has a case.
He absolutely does.
Good God, man. They weren't supposed to release it. That's personal stuff. With you as a governing... This is one thing that's kind of like, what sucks is we see... I don't pay attention to politics, but through MMA, I see how government bodies work, and it doesn't make me have a lot of faith in the government. Mm-hmm. When you test for something, you look at it and you go, oh man, we weren't even supposed to test for that. Shred that. That's done. That doesn't... It doesn't matter.
It's the man's personal life. It has nothing to do.
It has nothing to do with this competition. The debate on what frame of time should be considered in competition and out competition, which is a thing that Helwani has brought up as well. Mm-hmm. That's a thing I'm in favor of.
It's
like 12 hours before or after a fight is in competition. You mean the 8 weeks beforehand that guys are getting in phenomenal shape and probably have time to get on and cycle off of whatever they need to before fight time? That's not in... What are you talking... Like, that's silly. But that's a different debate for a different day.
That is different.
Right now, the rules are what they are, and Jones didn't do anything wrong inside the current rules.
This is essentially...
It sucks.
It's essentially 150 all over again. Or 151. Which one got canceled? 151.
151.
It's essentially that all over again in the terms that something negative happened and the UFC and everyone was like, well, we don't really want to take the blame for this, so let's just throw Jon under the bus. And they did it again.
I don't feel as though they threw Jon under the bus with this. Throwing Jon under the bus would have been pulling him from the event and keeping him from making all that money.
You think so?
Hell yeah, dude. And a clear violation of the code of conduct. Clear violation of the code of conduct, and they only fined the man $25,000.
Right. Just
they didn't charge him with anything. Dude. I don't think it's nearly as bad as 151. The fault here lies with...
To a much lesser extent.
The fault here lies with the commission more so. The UFC, the way they... Okay, hold on. Let me say something. Trying to get Fight Pass viewership on Jones's hearing on this That's pretty shitty.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
advertising the fact that, and then
Your
even-
champion failed a drug test for cocaine that he shouldn't have been tested for anyway, and
they don't mention that fact, by the way. That part is only people that
that's
like
glossed.
really follow.
Glossed over.
For the general public, they are getting your champion tested for cocaine, and they're not mentioning the fact that he shouldn't have been tested for it in the first place. And they're just like, well, John popped for cocaine, he's bad. Why haven't you punished him? We didn't do anything wrong. I
He
mean,
didn't really do it.
do cocaine a month before a fight. A, it's not going to have any effect on you in your fight. B, that's your personal life. What you do outside the cage, that's on you. That's really, it doesn't have...
And a lot of fighters were kind of like Matt Riddle getting pissed at the UFC, a dude who is in the industry, has dealt with commissions, and should understand the rules.
Yeah.
Something leads me to believe that Matt Riddle hasn't taken the time to read the rules. And, he just... Resume. I don't think Matt Riddle was taking the time to read the rules between you and me. That's an opinion I have.
Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle. Well, beyond Matt Riddle is the fact that what's next on the agenda?
Next up on the agenda, personally, I want to talk about two things, and that is we have this great blockbuster January. It's like probably the best month for MMA ever. I mean, we have
one of them, yeah.
We have 4 crazy killer events, and then immediately starting February, our first 2 cards have now lost their main events, and they have been replaced with Garbo. We are getting a main event
of
Josh Thompson,
Wonder Boy against Brandon Thatch.
Who the fuck is Brandon Thatch? Couldn't tell you.
You don't know who UFC main eventer Brandon Thatch is?
I don't. I had to look up the fact that he's fought in UFC twice, and the last fight was like 2 years ago.
What?
It's been a really long time. Stephen Thompson, we know him. We've been around since the beginning because he had such a buzz coming in as a kickboxing guy.
No,
Still,
he got that.
He's had a lot of fights. I mean, we know
Stephen
Thompson.
Stephen Thompson had a badass debut with that little over-the-shoulder question mark kick, but then he got like way overmatched against Matt Brown.
I don't know why they felt
Matt
to do
Brown.
that. He's had a couple wins since then.
And he's rebounded since.
Dude's good, but he is not main event good. Even questionably co-main event good.
Is it on a Fight Pass?
No, this is a Fox Sports 1 main event.
Man.
Also, right after that, we now have in Brazil another, if I recall correctly, Fox Sports 1, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, which was supposed to be Glover and Rashad. Now, Frank Mir versus Bigfoot Silva. Frank Mir has lost 4 straight. The man has lost 4 straight, and he is in a main event. Why? What? That's just desperate. I'm telling you.
What is that? Is that a pay-per-view? Did you just say?
That's not a pay-per-view.
Good God, thank you.
Thank
you.
Lord, we did have to attend a pay-per-view years
ago. Dude,
headlined by Frank Mir, and it was garbage.
Once you said headlined by Frank Mir, I just hit like flashbacks to UFC 119 where he does this motion. He like seriously, this is Steve Watson does this the best, man. Yeah. But like this is. Do you remember that knockout of?
I was there. I remember every second.
He does. You can't see my whole body, but he seriously goes.
That was it. Everyone in the entire audience. This was late in the third.
Like a surprise.
Everyone was just like, and we were looking. No one was paying attention.
I saw Krokop's unconscious body in person hit the canvas.
Everyone was just like, oh! And it was
the dude in front of us. He's this huge yoked dude rips his Frank Mir shirt off.
God.
His girlfriend jumps, wraps her legs around him. They start. This is not a joke. No, this is a real thing that happened in Indianapolis.
Directly
there were Croatians behind us crying into their flag. It was a wild time.
Yeah, this dude
not the fight though.
Started air banging in the.
Dude, he took his shirt off, swung it around, and was air banging his girlfriend. if that's what a Frank Mir victory can do, I don't know what another victory could do for this man.
Dude, who knows?
Maybe they've graduated. Maybe a win for maybe a win for. I'm trying to think of another like Frank Mir. Maybe this dude for a win of Nelson. He's getting a little bit more than air bang, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You think there's a couple out there that
like
celebrates Roy Nelson's wins with like
Garbo dirt people.
Yeah, Garbo dirt people.
Yeah, I don't want any part of them.
Yeah, but anyway, so Frank Mir is headlining a card against Bigfoot Silva, who just got knocked out by Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah.
Listen, they are athletes. They are craftsmen. I respect them as athletes. I respect the time they've put in to the sport. But the real problem we have here is the UFC trying to main event Wonderboy Thompson against Brandon Thatch, and I don't know, man.
Tell you what, that perfectly rolls into our next large segment, and we're going to be talking about pause.
Yeah, let's go get it. Yo, Cat, let's go get it. Looks like he's found peace.
Yeah. And that will lead us into our last topic, and that will be Bellator. The return of Bellator, essentially. First off, let's take a look at what specifically Coker is doing at the moment. Coker is going back to his Strikeforce ways and changing Bellator to become more so. It's perfect what he's doing. Instead of where Bjorn was trying to just go directly head to head with the UFC in some sort of weird
like a TV season. He was trying to make a fight. He was trying to make his organization work for a TV seasonal model, right? So fighters would actually have an off season.
It doesn't work.
Was dumb.
It doesn't work.
But now we're getting Bellator, the British invasion. Everyone, the British invasion is coming, and it was coming. But now they got two big losses to the card. James Thompson versus Bobby Lashley. That has been scrapped. And we also had the main event, which was weird. Their title order was Douglas Lima fighting Paul Daly for the welterweight title. And then under that was Emmanuel Newton fighting Liam McGeary for the light heavyweight title, which I have never really seen. I guess Paul Daly. Paul Daly has more star power than both of them, and
they put Ortiz and Barr main event over a title fight.
I was just saying the weight classes.
Yeah.
Right. Normally the traditional model is heavier weights
go first. Yeah.
Yeah, but can I also take a moment to say that I feel like I'm sitting in an alternate dimension where Bellator is we just started talking about Bellator, and right now I'm throwing out names that I actually didn't know I knew.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's weird because
Liam McGeary.
What Bellator is doing now
I knew that name.
They just want anyone who has name value. If you are a former glory and you have name value, get on in here and we will put you on TV and we will give you another old veteran that has name power and you guys are going to fight a really sloppy fight, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You are name power.
Your name power.
All that matters.
You're going to get us eyeballs.
Which is perfect because they are filling the void that the UFC isn't doing. And I think the UFC is making a terrible mistake in not letting them do this. They're trying to combat, they're trying to stop them from doing this by signing all these old people that they've already cut because they were too bad to stay fighting in the UFC. Example, Rampage, and now just today, Crow Cop. Bellator, Coker just last week was like, I want them all. He was like, I'm going to get Crow Cop. He already went to go talk to Fedor. Fedor said he didn't want to come back. But he was like, it was pretty dead set. He was getting Crow Cop. And they just got Kimbo last week. And now the UFC is like, nah, we're going to shut that down. Went and got Rampage and got Crow Cop. What are you going to do with Crow Cop in the UFC? he is going to get obliterated by anyone. He already did 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
the whole time he's in the UFC.
Okay, listen, this is what I'm saying. Bellator is going to operate kind of the same way that Scott Coker's just back to doing what Scott Coker does, running Strike Force under a new name, right? So the Strike Force model was, we're going to bring in some journeymen, veterans, fighters that people know, and they're going to tune in to see, because that's what the casual fan does.
And they'd be fighting people that weren't elite UFC level people, so they could do better and wouldn't just get obliterated.
Yeah, exactly. And you build them up a little bit, then they fight other veterans that have name value, because the casual fan doesn't realize that Stephan Bonner and Tito Ortiz haven't been relevant since 2006. Now, what that does for the younger fighters, the fighters coming up, right? All these eyeballs are on, again, we'll come back to the Stephan Bonner, Tito Ortiz. Well, if you're watching Stephan Bonner, Tito Ortiz, you might as well watch Will Brooks take on Michael Chandler for the lightweight title, and now that's getting eyeballs, and now they're growing a brand of a thing that the UFC doesn't really do that well anymore.
No.
The UFC finds stars, and then it grabs all those stars, and it's not going to let that star go, and if you're in the top 5 and you lose the top 5 guy 3 times in a row, by God, you're going to fight another top 5 guy, and if you can't, you're gone.
Yeah.
We don't build prospects here. We keep them.
I feel like they're making a mistake in trying to go against Bellator. I mean, like, that and the thing that they could do better with this, let Bellator get all these people, let them do all these things. You can cut back your ridiculous number of shows, and we don't have to get Stephen Thompson versus Brandon Thatcher in a main event. 3-4 years ago, right? Way back in the day, we're working at Kroger. Weekend comes along. Fights. We want to watch them. But there's no UFC this weekend. That's okay.
That's okay because we had
Strike Force was on. Or there was any HD net fight. Or there was Yellow Cage fights.
King of the Cage. Yeah, there was Tony Lopez defending every title. One of his 6 titles he held for King of the Cage. That was awesome.
There was a variety, and it didn't matter if they weren't UFC caliber people, because you would enjoy these guys doing what they do, and then when a UFC event would come along, it would be loaded with stars, and it would be bomb as shit. And now, with an exception of this January, which has been pretty dope.
This January's been awesome, and it's dude, I mean, I know some people watching will remember this. I know that we definitely remember this because until recently, I don't think we missed a card.
Nah.
Watching. Man, that's what it was. Was the UFC it wasn't all the time. I mean, we were watching back when it was like once a month.
If that. We would go sometime there would be a pay-per-view every 2 months.
Yeah, man. And what that did was, well, we want to watch MMA, and then we'd watch Strike Force. We watched. There was Elite XC at the time. There was IFL to watch. There were all these different promotions, and then when you'd finally get to watch the UFC, it was just that much better. You remembered why the UFC is the UFC, and you get to see a card loaded with dudes that even the loser of the fight that you saw, you knew that if he went down to King of the Cage, he'd beat Tony Lopez for every title he had. And now with the oversaturation, and it's taken away. Like when we were watching the Daniel Cormier, Jon Jones fight, there was a certain, and with the Conor fight, there was a certain electricity about it, right? Something that we've been waiting for a long time, something that's built up over time that we've been excited for, and we weren't just excited. I don't just get, like, when the UFC is like, oh, we're putting on a card, I don't just get excited that the UFC could have been, like, back in the day, the UFC could have been like, well, we're having a card this day. I would have freaked out because I knew that on that day that was going to be loaded with stars, loaded with the top of the top. from top to bottom. Now, it's like, well, I mean, let's see who they put on it, because maybe it's going to be headlined by Stephen Thompson and Brandon Thatch.
And just from a marketing standpoint alone, the way they operate now is, it's kind of smart and it's kind of stupid. They're just, the whole, it's pros and cons of the oversaturation thing. But they don't start rolling out the hype train for the next card until the last one's over. And they're so often and frequent, there's usually only a week between them. So we knew that, the McGregor fight was happening. But, the hype train didn't really start until after Jones-Cormier. So we had 2 weeks to get excited about that. Now, this coming week, we have Rumble and Gustafsson. That is huge. The hype train hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
We have days to get excited for that. If they would have just announced that and we had a month of getting hyped for that, you think how huge that would be. Instead of trying to do all these little events and try to just get like a moderate amount of people to hop on. If you could build up your pay-per-views again and have just huge, massive cards, you can get back to having those like 800,000 pay-per-view buys and stuff. And like, because I don't remember the stat off the top of my head, but I remember, God, I wish I could remember it. But they said, God, it was Rich Franklin versus Vanderlei Silva. Main event did like more pay-per-view numbers than like a Jones fight or something like that.
I'm sure it did.
And they were like, because there weren't Fox Sports 1 and all these other things. There weren't fight nights and shit. It was just like, they were pay-per-views. And every once in a while there'd be a fight night on Spike. That was it. And those were like notably lower tier guys, but still, you got main events and top cards that were solid, that you would want to tune in and see these people. And we just don't anymore. We don't skip cards. We watch them all because it's there.
I'm gonna watch.
But if I wasn't this invested at this point,
I am gonna. Like, this shouldn't happen, UFC. I shouldn't feel
obligated.
I shouldn't feel obligated to watch. And no.
Completely forgettable cards.
Dana White's right. I don't have to watch it, but I will watch it. And at the end of the card, when I've waited all night,
because
I'm going to get rewarded with Brandon Thatch and Wonderboy Thompson.
Because that's what we want. We want every weekend that comes along, we're like, yeah, I want to watch some fights. But they don't have to be UFC fights. That's not necessary. The UFC is like, we can do that. We'll just buy all these other organizations and we'll destroy them and get all their people so we can have every event every weekend. It's not necessary. It also is horrible for the market. They're running into all kinds of problems now without having any competition. And just, if you would just let some of these other organizations go, let them have Crow Cop and let them have Rampage. They are useless in the UFC.
But to get back to what we were saying before, this is a money making year.
Yeah.
This is a money making year, and what we saw with, again, in November, Tito Ortiz fighting no, that wasn't November. That was a while ago.
Maybe it was. I was gonna say it was more recent than November. I'm gonna say it was November. I'm gonna agree with that.
We were still at the apartment.
Ortiz
and Bonner
was right here.
No.
Nope. You're telling me we were at the old apartment? That's wrong.
No.
Way
I was
wrong.
thinking
That
Ortiz Slamenko.
That is something else.
No.
Yeah.
Bonner. Yeah, we were what? Oh God, no.
Listen,
Bonner and
it was over 2 million, right? Over 2 million.
Did so many numbers,
and they were against a UFC card. Blew them out of the water. I can't remember what UFC card it was that night, but they messed them up.
And
I know exactly what it was. It was 180. It was a pay-per-view. It was a pay-per-view for the heavyweight interim title. Still got blown out of the water by Spike TV. And what was, honestly, a horrible fight. The fight itself
the main event,
was terrible.
To clarify, the main event was terrible.
The main event was terrible.
Michael Chandler
card was good. But the reason why people tune in is for the name value. And those fights, think about it. We could have gotten Kimbo versus Crow Cop. We could have gotten Kimbo versus Crow Cop in their 40s.
That all day.
Everyone would have tuned in for that.
I'll tune into that all day.
I would have tuned in for that more than I would tune in for any him versus anyone, and Crow Cop versus anyone in the UFC. Who do you give him in the heavyweight division of the UFC?
Kimbo?
Oh, Crow Cop. What do you do with him? Think about it. He already fought Roy Nelson.
He
already
fought
lost.
Roy Nelson already?
Yes.
He fought Roy Nelson, man. And he got beat up.
Got finished.
Overeem. Give him Overeem. If Overeem beats...
That would be a disaster.
If Overeem beats...
I don't know what would
I'm
happen.
thinking they sign him.
Who is Overeem
I'm thinking
fighting?
they sign him.
Roy.
He's fighting Roy.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
When is that happening?
March. February?
I'm so ready for that fight.
Yeah, it's happening.
So
I'm ready for that fight, too. I think they give him Gonzaga.
Oh,
I think that would be a cool... If
That
they're
is
just
about-
trying to bank on nostalgia value, I'll tune
see,
in.
here's the thing, though. I feel like, for the most part, what the UFC is doing with this is they're not really doing so much to try to do anything themselves. It's just to keep him out of the hands of Bellator.
Yeah.
Where he can hurt them, but he's not really going to hurt
hurting them.
Dude,
It's
you guys
a
got to start
different
working.
Thing. It's a different thing. It's not... Ooh,
Competition drives the market. And they just don't understand that. Bellator existing is a good thing.
That's a solid thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
And we're getting fights like King Mo versus
Czech Congo.
Czech Congo at heavyweight in Bellator. What the hell is that? That is going to be incredible.
Hey.
Who knows what's going to happen there?
Hey, Brad, what does that mean for the heavyweight division?
Nothing.
What does it mean for the light heavyweight division?
Nothing.
But I'm gonna watch it.
Doesn't matter.
Because that's a fun fight to make. That's one thing that when you look at Pride and when you look at Strike Force, the magic of those organizations was these kind of fights. It was the fact that you have champions, you have competitive fights, you have some solid stuff, but above all else, you also understand that it's entertainment, and
you're going to give the people what they want.
You're going to give the people the matchups they want. Not that I'm saying every card I need to see Jose Canseco fighting Hongman Choi, but
the UFC has gotten so caught up on, like, you need to stay in your own weight class, and you need to make it to the top, and you need to become champion, and then you need to stay champion until you've cleaned out the entire division before you can move to another weight class,
or just take a fun fight.
Just take a fun fight. Every time anything gets brought up like that, they're like, "Nah, he's still got
work to do.
Still got work to do in his division, or he's still got contenders to take care of." Like, dude, just let's do some fun fights. Think of all the dope fights that have been passed over.
What happens then is you finally get these fun fights a year after a guy is in his prime.
Oh, years. Yeah, I mean, think about, we were discussing Anderson, GSP. We were in high school. And I remember they brought up, they were like, if Anderson beats whoever he had up next, and GSP beats whoever he has next, we're going to do that fight. That was the time to make it. That was the time to do it.
And then they both won, and then they were like, actually, you know what?
Let's do something else. And then we're going to have Anderson.
Chael, maybe.
I think it was the second. No. It wasn't the first one. Let's see. Second show was after we got out. Who would have been before that? Okami?
No. They wouldn't have been like, all right, Silva, here's your test for GSP.
No.
Yushin Okami.
They were just trying to get him out of the way so they could get him to do something. I don't remember who it was. GSP, I think it was before his ACL. What was his last fight before the ACL? First one. He came back to Condit. Before Condit, he left against... Who was it? It wasn't Dan Hardy, was it?
No, I think what stopped it was the fact that Sonnen got so close.
Yeah,
they wanted to do the immediate rematch. Then he tested hot. And then
Point is,
we just want some more fun fights.
We want fun fights, guys. Come on, give us
some fun fights.
Give us the Pettis versus Aldo.
God, I would
Pettis Aldo.
Just throw in Cerrone against Stephen Thompson or something.
Dude,
just make
Conor
it like
McGregor versus anyone at any weight class. Like, do these fights. Do the fun fights. Make the stuff happen. Especially, we're just talking about champion stuff. For guys that aren't near the top or aren't in title talks, let them fight whoever you want to fight.
No, the closest thing we got in recent memory, which I was psyched for, was when Dos Santos got hurt before he fought Stipe, and they were like, Get in there, Maldonado. We know what you do. We know what you're here for. Right hand slap. So that would, I guess, be an argument of why you don't let guys just jump weight classes.
Hey, we are getting one though.
But hey, let's talking about Fabio Maldonado just because we're kind of free balling here.
Free ball.
Rampage Jackson fighting Fabio Maldonado has got me enjoying that written all over it.
Yeah,
that's a cool. That's one thing that I hope that the UFC does with these guys the older guys that they're kind of roping back in to keep out of the hands of Bellator. What were they going to do in Bellator? They weren't going to title chase. They were going to give Rampage Jackson Joey Beltran. Just let him go out there and just let him ball out. Let Rampage ball out against Fabio Maldonado.
I'm still holding out hope for the Shogun fight. I want that. I wish they would have done that first. Because you can even main event with that. I don't care.
Oh, you got... Oh, yeah. You could main event...
on Shogun. Shogun's main evented a lot lately. He's just getting knocked out left and right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, was there anything else on the...
Not really.
Thing to talk about? I want to buy Thompson.
Yeah, that's happening.
No!
February's going to be a disappointing month.
No, I am going to watch that and write about it.
I'll give them credit, though. They are putting together some bomb-ass pay-per-views.
Yeah,
Every pay-per-view they've been rolling out is stacked. But all these little free cards are just falling by the wayside. I mean, they poached Matt Brown to throw him onto a pay-per-view. They moved him to the pay-per-view. He was still fine. He could have still fought in that main event. But they were like, nah, let's get him down here against Hendricks on pay-per-view. And then we'll just have Stephen Thompson.
Hey, you know what Lim is doing?
No. No idea.
I feel like that guy should fight Matt Brown.
Would have been cool. Would have been dope. I don't know all about that.
There's a
Matt
lot
Brown
of guys.
versus Johnny Hendricks is still a fight, though.
I don't know. I mean, we don't have to keep... I'm just going to bring it in. Do you remember the dude who knocked out Paulo Thiago a long-ass time ago?
How long ago are we talking?
Paulo Thiago rushed forward, short, Sidhar,
Shir Bahadurzada. Bahadurzada!
Yeah.
Bahadurzada.
Yes. I have no idea.
He got ground out by... he knocked out Paulo Thiago. I was just thinking about this guy the other day.
That brought something else to my mind.
Fought Dong Yong Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Lost to him, 3-round decision.
Yeah. I have no idea. He could have been floating around on early prelims. Who knows?
No, dude.
Speaking
I
of
looked him up the other day.
Yeah? Nothing?
Nothing.
I just saw, I don't remember what card it's on because there's so many, but it is on the Fight Pass prelims of something. I'm thinking it's a pay-per-view coming up. Jimmy Hedis versus Diego Brandao.
Sign me
Pass
up.
prelims.
Oh, that's gonna be a Fight Pass prelim. I watch live.
That's gonna be great. I'm all about that. Hedis, dude, we've been with Hedis for a minute. I mean, he got killed by Dennis Bermudez, but before that, he was a dope dude. I mean, he obliterated
like MMA
what was
grappling.
What's his name? He's in
Nam
Bellator
Fan.
now. Nam Fan, dude.
I don't think he's in Bellator anymore, man.
Wow.
Did you see what happened to him in Bellator?
Did he get beat up a lot? Because he got beat up a lot in the UFC.
Dude got knocked out.
Really?
I
didn't even see it.
Knocked out in a way that Nam Fan don't get knocked out.
It's like a Chance on Jung type of situation. That was horrible.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. He got knocked out by I'm Kobe McKinley.
Brad Jones.
And this was MMA Brothers on MMALatestNews.com.
See you next week, everybody.
See you next week!